it's like we try to make sense of it. We all do. We try to make sense of what happens to us. For me, it's connected to our soul.
Isn't that the kind of talk that made us kind of hold on to that trauma in the first place?
I always say the more you give to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
the more you have to give to others.
Hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity, your recovery-focused podcast with your host, Keegan. Today, we are joined once again by Naomi Morad, a trauma-informed psychosomatic practitioner who specializes in turning the pain held within the body into a roadmap for liberation. And I just got to ask, how do we actually dive into the tissue if it's trying to keep us just safe, quote unquote?
How do we dive into the tissue when it tries to keep us safe? I have not looked at it from I know that our belief systems try to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
The belief system of I'm unworthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough. And those belief systems sit in our tissue.
Okay.
So think about it when you think of yourself as like, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Even just saying that to yourself, like if I just repeat that, I feel like something in my chest, like I'm like, I'm becoming small and it becomes hard to breathe.
Yeah.
So that's in the tissue. It means those subconscious beliefs about ourselves that are related to our trauma. Those sit in our tissue.
Okay, so it's not necessarily the tissue that's acting up. It's just kind of responding to the program that we're telling it to, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know real quick, some of our listeners may have not listened or watched the last episode. So real quick, do you want to give a little bit of a background of where you came from is in terms of how you found out psychosomatic work was like your calling?
Okay. Before I go into that, I have to go back for a second to the issue in the tissue.
Okay.
Which relates also to my story because it's if you've been beaten as a child or you've been molested, sexually abused, your parents threw plates at you, whatever it was, okay? That is also in the tissue. And it all goes together. It's very hard to create a separation between this is just the issue and this is just the tissue because we're one.
Yeah.
We can't really dissect each other. One affects the other.
Okay. So is that why it's so difficult to really make that mind-body connection because one is trying to do more work than the other or something like that?
I think the mind very much tries to control.
Yeah.
And tries to dictate the tone and without putting you on the spot, Keegan, but even, asking that question, it's like we try to make sense of it. We all do. We try to make sense of what happens to us. We try to make sense of the world and understand people and situations because it makes us feel safe.
Yeah.
And when we don't know and we don't understand, then it's like, how can we control it?
Oh, okay. And I guess that's kind of the hard thing because whenever we're growing up, a lot of stuff just doesn't make sense, even in hindsight. We've got to start listening to our body instead of trying to think about it, right?
Absolutely. It's like, sometimes you have to make a decision or someone asks you something and where you think, do I want to do this or not? And your gut instinct tells you something, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to argue with it. You say, I don't know. Should I go? Should I not go? Should I do this? Should I not do this? But why? And, we start like dissecting our gut feeling. And our gut feeling is something that comes from our body, comes from the tissue. And our gut is usually right.
Okay. Well, do you know why? Or is it just because it just kind of makes sense?
See, the way I look at gut instinct, I think for me, it's connected to our soul, to our higher self, to the truth, the core of who we really are. It's like that knowing that is underneath all the beliefs and everything that's been planted into our brains, everything that we've been conditioned to know and believe. Underneath that, there's that knowing. Doesn't matter what people say about you and what belief system you've built, deep down inside of yourself, you do know the truth.
Okay.
And I think that is the connection to our soul. And I think our gut operates from the same place.
Oh, okay. Interesting thought. So, real quick on your backstory, you had you had over 20 years of just really rough stuff going on, from abuse to being trafficked and all this other stuff. And I just got to say again, thank you for making it through all that. Because you taught us in our last episode that disassociation is actually the thing that kept you alive. And at the same time, so many people fall into disassociation, but they don't really maybe claw their way out of it because it's so safe there. So what really was the tipping point for you in that?
What was the tipping point in me? I think the dissociation expressed itself for me through severe depression. There was all that anger and all of that unspoken stuff that was sitting in my subconscious, weighing very heavily on my well-being, interfering literally with everything I was doing. I already had 2 little kids at that time. By the time I was able to start doing some work with this, I was 27 and I just could barely keep my head above water. I wasn't functioning properly as a mother. I wasn't present. I wasn't able to focus the way I wanted to. So it takes a toll. And at the same time, I think it's a choice. I could have gone to taking antidepressants and there are many routes we can take. I could have started taking drugs. I could have started drinking alcohol. There's lots of options.
Yeah.
and I was lucky enough to say, okay, I'm ready to cope with whatever this is. And I also knew all these years, I left my parents' home when I was 20. The person that trafficked me was my father. So there were like different steps of moving away from that. So I first needed to move away to get some distance without understanding exactly what happened, just knowing I was miserable at home. Yeah. That much I knew, even though I had no awareness of as weird as it may sound, I had no awareness of being trafficked during all of this time.
Wow.
I had no awareness that I was participating in pornographic movies. I had no awareness of the ritual abuse I was undergoing because it started so early. And in order to survive, like you said, protect myself, I had to make a very clear cut. So I lived 2 lives in parallel. One was having breakfast, lunch, and dinner with my family, going out with friends, going to school. And then simultaneously, there was my other life, which I call like my hidden life, which I had no awareness of. So as soon as I knew that, okay, danger is coming, it's almost like snapping out of the body. And like you're in a different reality. It's like, you got to leave this body, you got to leave this consciousness and in order to survive this other world.
Oof. So essentially having to escape your body to come back to it, and it kind of telling you like, hey, this kind of happened, but it doesn't really let you know what happened. It's just like, you got some stuff to work through in the future, but so that's really, really weird because our bodies kind of remember things that our brains don't. So we're trying to use the brain to make sense of the things that the body felt. And it doesn't really work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
So how did you figure out that your body was holding on to all this stuff? And like, what was the first thing that you did to really start working through that? Because I'm speaking from my own experience, growing up feeling shameful for just existing a lot of the time. I've been working on my posture because I noticed that I have really rounded shoulders and all this other stuff. And so working on my postures made me realize that I'm releasing a lot of trauma every time I pull my shoulders back, and it hurts. What was the thing that really got the ball rolling for you on that to release that trauma?
Before I answer that question, I'm going to bring that question back to you.
Okay.
Like, what made you want to change something in your posture?
Oof. That's a good question. Probably because I think I realized that a part of me was still trying to hide, and I'm not wanting to hide anymore.
Interesting. So there was a certain awareness that kicked in. Mm-hmm. It means you knew that it was becoming uncomfortable to hide.
Yeah.
Did I hear that right?
Yeah. On the spot.
So for me, it was the same. And I think it's like that for most people. Mm-hmm. That's why I asked you first. Mm-hmm. It's when suppressing the pain and the shame and the feeling worthless and all of that, when that becomes, and we don't necessarily understand it in our minds, but we know that this is like this feeling small becomes more uncomfortable than having to cope with it.
Okay. So would you say that your spirit was trying to tell you something was up and it was ready to grow or something?
Yeah. And sometimes that, like, it was like I personally was not able to continue going the way I was living. Like, it took up so much of my energy that, and my will to live, literally, that I had to do something.
Yeah. Okay.
It was either in or out, sort of, for me.
Oh, okay. So it was either you change what you're doing or you're just kind of stuck forever, maybe?
Worse. And when I decided to start working on my depression, because that's really what I felt mostly. I felt depressed. I couldn't breathe. I was tired. I had no energy. I went to see a psychosomatic therapist. That's how I got into the whole field. And through the body work, like it was working through the body to awaken trauma that's sitting in the tissue.
Ooh, awaken trauma.
Yes, to work with the trauma that is in the tissue. And there's certain techniques that you use. It's like direct body work. People are like, take out off your clothes like you would go for a massage. And it's like certain touches that remind you maybe of massage, but are very intentional to wake up certain emotions.
Okay.
And you really learn how to read the body and work with the body and understand like what is needed, to work with the person. I know a lot about it because I became a practitioner myself after I underwent the therapy. And it was very effective, and it really helped me learn about my depression. It taught me how to start paying attention what gets me depressed, what the triggers are. And I noticed that I get angry a lot of the time and I don't even know it.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, because
it's like, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because that's the first thing that I realized whenever I was trying to work on my posture is that as I was sitting there and I was just like, I'm uncomfortable, but at the same time, I'm like, it feels more correct or proper, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, there's something in me that is just absolutely livid. And I'm just like trying to not scream sometimes. And it's making my patience go like from kind of short and small to like almost non-existent sometimes. And I'm like, what is going on? And I think that it's kind of like you said, it's just the trauma is getting awakened and maybe I'm trying to process it, but I don't know how. So how would you work on yourself to kind of do that stuff? Because you went to a practitioner, right? So you kind of have to have someone guide you through it to let you know that you're safe, right?
I was going to say, my first instinct was to tell you, you don't do it by yourself.
Damn you, hyper independence.
Look, I think doing the work on yourself is super important. But when you have trauma to work through, which, by the way, 99% of the population does, you do, like you just said, you need someone to be there with you, to witness the process with you, and to hold the space. So you're not alone again. Because when you go through the trauma, you feel more alone than you could ever be.
Yeah. Damn. And yeah, that it kind of makes sense that you can't necessarily work through it by yourself. in some senses, because a lot of the trauma we experience isn't necessarily something we put on ourselves. So we kind of have to have that third party, if you will, come through and reinforce the positive patterns or something like that, right?
Also, for sure. And because we're in our trauma cell, as we're working through the trauma, we need somebody who's outside of that, who can like reach in and help guide you and point out the blind spots if needed, or just help you move through the pain that you're moving through. And it's so different to do that with someone who holds the space for you and who's there to guide you and to hold you, versus having to do it on your own.
Real quick, how would someone make sure that they don't fall into codependency on that kind of thing, right? Because they can only do so much for you whenever you're sitting there trying to work through all this stuff. But it's one of those things that we like safety. We like that feeling of being heard and everything like that. So how do you work through still being yourself without letting other people dictate that for you again? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And when I think of codependency in therapy, I think, and I'm not trying to downplay here anything. I think especially of talk therapy, traditional talk therapy, again, where we don't address what's in the tissue and we only work from our neocortex, our thinking mind, and there's only so much you can process. And I often have clients that come to me after being for years and years and years. I've had people who have been for 15 years in talk therapy. And there's definitely that codependence with that therapist, but they still deal with the same fears. So they still have the same issues in their life. So they have a better understanding. They can cope a little better, but the issue is still there. Whereas in the somatic-based approach that I use today, which is like a combination of brain spotting, parts work, and inner child healing, and I can talk a little bit more about how that works. But basically, every session, you release not from your thinking mind. As you process, yes, you speak, but we bypass the thinking mind. We go straight to the emotion, to the tissue, and we bypass all of that chatter in our mind and what we think the things are connected to and what it's really connected to. Like, I'll give you an example. I was working with a client this week, and the issue she wanted to work on was procrastination. She said, it seems like not a big deal, but it's really like, it bothers me in my, like, I miss certain things that are important, and it's a nuisance. And I want to understand why I do that, why I'm not organized with that. And now I have to say she's a client I've been working with for a while. So she's very comfortable with the work. So she, first time client would probably not make all of these connections. But during the process, she went back to childhood memories of loss. And even connected back to her grandfather that committed suicide that she never met. And the guilt that she carried from then, and feeling that she needs to hold on to things and not being able to fully show up in her life, having to play small, and by having all the paperwork scattered, she can't really progress in her life the way she wants to. So it's like connections that you could never come up with if you were to try to work it out in your brain, in your thinking mind. Because you don't have access to all of this information. Like, she was shocked at the end of the session, like at all the connections that she made and all the points in her life she went back to. And that was just by processing. And I don't interfere much. It's like, as we begin the process, things begin to unravel and unravel and unravel. And they make the 360 and come back to today. And then that resistance to keeping things organized wasn't in her body anymore because she cleared the root core of the issue. So when you clear the root core of the issue, coming back to your question, you don't have that need for codependency because you basically just realigned parts of yourself. You just got the parts of yourself back that were lost in those trauma.
Ooh, okay. I love the image that my brain just put in there because it's kind of like I'm trying to think of a good example, but let's just go with the Wizard of Oz. You know, whenever the tornado comes through and picks up the house and the cows and everything. So trauma could be that tornado, and then everything lost in that tornado is the parts of ourselves that kind of got sucked away from ourselves, and we're trying to go back into the tornado and like either make the tornado stop or at least pull the stuff out that belongs to us, right?
Pull the stuff out that belongs to us that got lost in the tornado. And then when you have the stuff back with you, you're not affected by the tornado anymore.
Okay. So I have to ask real quick is for that specific client that made all those connections and stuff, did she have this kind of somatic release, and do they look similar for everyone? Because I mean, yawning, I just realized and found out the other day that it's a release of energy, and I was like, wait, what? So what other forms of body release are there?
Like you said, there's crying, there's yawning, there's burping a lot. Yeah. There is
I guess
different sensations in the stomach, tension in the chest, that is them being released. Sometimes people start moving, releasing their shoulders. They need to move their seat a little bit. Like there's endless ways of the body wanting to release.
Which one have you noticed in yourself the most? Or is it just kind of
shudder a lot?
Shudder, like getting the shivers?
like you know, like my whole body will just like shake something out.
Like a horse with a fly or something.
I guess I did not have that image in mind, but
I don't know why.
Maybe because of the verbiage I use, shudder. That I couldn't think of a proper word, but yeah, it's like my body wants to shake it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that is really the tissue releasing what was there, right? And
yes.
Real quick, do you have that kind of happen like randomly? And do you think about like, why did I just do that? Or do you just kind of like let it happen and then just go on with your day?
Both.
Both?
But then again, I've been doing body work, like emotional body work release for 25 years. I teach a kind of dance therapy that also works with emotional release. It's just something that my body is very trained to do.
Gotcha.
And I cry a lot. I do.
Yeah.
I can walk through the day sometimes and my tears will continue rolling throughout the day. And it's like, I know I'm just releasing stuff and that's okay.
Yeah. And there's no shame behind it, no guilt, no, I shouldn't do this or that's silly kind of stuff, because isn't that the kind of talk that made us kind of hold on to that trauma in the first place?
It took me years to be able to cry. I was not able to cry good first couple of years when I went to therapy. Like I had so much stuff that I was holding in my body and so much tension and so much shame and guilt, and I couldn't cry. Now I can't stop crying often, but and it's not a hysterical crying. It's just, release when it wants to release.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, for my perspective, a lot of guys don't cry, like I said earlier. And one of the things that I actually experienced myself a few months ago was just, I felt this huge urge to like have that ugly cry, the one where it's like snot is going everywhere. Like you can't actually formulate a sentence because your body and diaphragm are just like hiccuping and all this other stuff. And I was like, where is this coming from? I was like, I don't even understand. And that's the other thing is that like part of me didn't trust myself to let it out. And I don't remember exactly what it was that kind of got the ball rolling, but I know that there was one instance and it just started and I was like, all right, I guess we're going to like see how far we can go with this. And it felt so good. But that's the thing is that like, how do we make ourselves trust our bodies again? Or how do our bodies trust our brain again? Does that make sense?
I think the more we heal, and it sounds like you've been processing your trauma for a minute.
Yeah, I've been trying.
Exactly. And the more you process it and the more work you do on yourself and the more you let go, the more you learn to trust yourself.
Okay. So do you think that it could be a leap of faith for some people, or does it have to be that slow kind of build up?
Some people, they just cry without a problem always.
Yeah.
And for them, it will probably be easier, I guess, to just fall into that. And maybe for them, there will be more drama connected to that. I don't know. Okay. I'm just throwing things out. Yeah. Everyone is so different and we're all built differently and different things trigger us and different things hold us back from letting go. And we all, most importantly, we have our own pace. Mm-hmm. And you're only ready when you're ready for the next step. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that was something that you talked about last time too, because that was the whole onion analogy, right? Like we can't really let something up to our conscious that our subconscious says, no, you're not ready for it yet, right?
100%.
So do you feel it in your body first? Like, is that what I was feeling with the ugly cry coming on? Was that my subconscious going like, hey, bud, you're ready to actually tackle this?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. Yes. Because that's when the thoughts start coming in. We start thinking about things that we didn't think about before. Yeah. It's not like you've been walking around now thinking for months, oh, I should have that cry, but suddenly it came to your consciousness, to your awareness. Yeah. That this is something that you really long to do. It means your subconscious was preparing, was getting ready for this next thing.
Okay. So one of the things that also I have to ask though is that there's a theory, the more I've talked to people and like explored my own self, I'm like, I don't know if it's a theory, but I'm pretty sure that the subconscious mind is the body. And it's like 10 steps ahead of my conscious mind. And it's weird. So you teach people how to essentially rein in the body, or just someone just like put on some music and then just like literally let the music move through them, or what?
No, it's a guided class where I start with a warm up and then I will give people certain restrictions like, okay, now we're going to start with moving our right hand and our right hand is going to lead the way and only the right hand moves. Oh. And there's a certain freedom in that restriction. And we can do the left hand and then we'll do just the upper body or just the legs, or we'll let our spine move and then we'll allow. And every time we check back in, okay, what's in my body now? And then I will say, okay, now just let your body move from what you're feeling, from your breath. Notice what's moving, like how your body wants to move organically, and just listening to that and letting that develop and evolve. So it's really being in touch with what's in your body at each given moment in time instead of just going loose and just going crazy, which is fun too, but it's a whole different story. And when we do that, when we move from a place of accurate listening and our breath, the movement is very different and it's very releasing and freeing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially it's one of those times where having some boundaries actually helps you be more free.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. So that kind of raises the question, does trauma live in only certain parts of our body, or can it be in every part of the body?
I want to say that we'll mostly be aware of pain in our shoulders, pain in our knees, back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, stomach aches, difficulty breathing. Like, that's how we will feel it mostly. It's rare that somebody will say, when I say, where do you feel this anger in your body, that they'll say in my pinky toe. But when I will ask somebody, where do you feel safest in your body, they will often say, in my feet. If I want to find a safe place or something, where do you feel most grounded in your body? Sorry, not safest, grounded. So yes, there are certain places, and yet I want to say trauma is in every cell. It's everywhere.
Gotcha. So we're not trying to necessarily work on each individual cell necessarily, right? Because that would be really, really hard and it'd take forever. So we're trying to essentially work on it as a group, right? Like it's a team effort within our own body, right?
Think of it like a consciousness.
Okay.
Think of, I don't know, think of shame.
Oof,
as a consciousness that we carry.
Ooh.
And that consciousness affects many parts of our, exactly. Both of us are like, and I guess we can all relate to that because everyone carries it on one level or another, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it can also be generational shame that we carry from generations back, and that was passed on culturally to our parents and passed on to us, and unresolved issues that we carry. And when we free ourselves, think of it more as a consciousness, and that consciousness has an effect in our body. When we clear that consciousness, automatically we clear it in our body.
Ooh.
We just connect through that consciousness through our body. So they're
weird. It's a back and forth kind of thing, right?
It's all connected.
Yeah. As you were talking about that, I was like, okay, so wait, what if I imagine the shame that I kind of carry in that consciousness form, and the first thing that happened was my shoulder just dropped a little bit, and I was like, oh, what? Yeah. So is it really that simple to just kind of think of it different, like reframing our perspective of what we carry sometimes?
I've never thought of that, but even though I guess I just explained that, but I've never thought of it that way. But I do think, yes, I think when we understand things and they make sense to us, like our understanding sort of creates like a different understanding, a different integration of that issue. Like we understand it on another level. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like it suddenly makes more sense. It's like something, it's like a puzzle piece that suddenly clicks in and you're like, okay, that fits.
Yeah, having that eureka moment, that epiphany.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of weird because it's like the body has to talk to the mind to let the mind know, hey, it's okay. And then because one of the people I spoke with not too long ago, I was actually on their podcast, and so we were working through some like kind of like trauma stuff, and kind of found out that one of my safety mechanisms ever since I was like 3-4 years old was to think things through, to analyze it to death. Because if I could make sense of it, I could control it. If I made sense of it, and if I could control it, then maybe I wouldn't be in trouble, or maybe I could make sure that my mom didn't get in trouble, and so on and so forth. And so it's like, it's just weird that I have to separate mind from body, but also at the same time connect them too. Is that kind of right? Am I on the right page?
You're very much on the right page. And by controlling, it makes you feel safe.
Yeah.
That's what we want. At the end of the day, we do whatever we need to do in order to feel safe in one way or another.
So is there a certain practice that you do for yourself to help you remind yourself that you're safe whenever you get triggered?
I don't think of it that way.
Okay.
That I have to make myself feel safe. For me, the way to regulate my nervous system, to regulate my body, my mind, is to allow myself to feel the fear, the feeling dysregulated, the annoyance. Like, I don't know if I should say this here or not, but I'll just mention it. Yesterday, I was on another podcast. And as I was being interviewed, it wasn't like with you where I feel very comfortable having conversation. The conversation flows and we just talking. He asked a question and then I would answer, and then I would see him thinking, okay, what's my next question? And he would ask the next question, which wasn't really related to the thing I spoke to before. And I was extremely dysregulated after that podcast.
Oh, no.
Because he asked me a lot of not easy questions, but I don't mind answering difficult questions if the conversation flows. But here it was like okay, next question. And then there would be no response, no feedback whatsoever on his face, no movement, nothing.
What?
And I would think, now, did he understand what I said? I finished talking, but no response. Anyway, it triggered a lot in me. So I had to sit with this morning. I meditated and I sat with feeling before coming on another podcast. And I usually don't do back-to-back podcasts. I have usually one every couple of weeks.
Yeah, this is a good idea.
I'm not a podcast fanatic, but I was like, okay, I have to clean this out before I come on the podcast with Keegan, because I'm totally dysregulated from yesterday's podcast. And I just had to allow myself to sit with that and feel what I felt as a 3-year-old. That's what came up for me, and just sit with that and allow that 3-year-old to vent that showed up for me, and feeling unseen and unheard and not cared about and not and neglected. And once I processed all of that and I journaled, I came back to myself and I was like, okay, I'm good now. Long answer to your question.
Nah, and long answers are totally fine here, because either I'll go off on a tangent and not realize it or something. But that's the thing, is that we like to chase rabbits and down the rabbit holes because we never know what needs to be talked about. And I mean, even though you and I are having this one-on-one, I feel like a lot of the time we're just conveying a message that someone out there is needing to hear later on.
Yeah.
So it's one of those that I'm really glad that you did show up today, because I just love this kind of conversation. I love this flow, this energy and everything, because it's one of those things that connection, I feel like, with others, kind of like what you were saying, helps us kind of regulate ourselves on a level that we don't recognize off the top of our head.
So true.
So whenever you were doing your regulation, you just kind of embraced what you were feeling. And at the same time, you had to really just sit with it, right? You can't tell yourself, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't this, that, or another. You just said, all right, this is what is, and let's let it happen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much. It's like getting curious about what it is.
Ooh.
And I used to beat myself up a lot.
Yeah.
Like, why do I feel like that? Why did I react that way? I should have said this instead of that. I've been there. Okay. This is years and years of doing this, working with people, doing tons of work on myself. I would say pretty much on a daily basis, almost.
Yeah.
For many, many, many years. So, you sort of get trained to be able to sit with your own shit, if I may say.
Yeah.
And see where it takes you, and to know I'll be okay. I can do this. I can go on that tangent, and I can go on that exploration, and I'm okay. I've got me.
Yeah. Okay. So you learned to be your own best friend in a sorts, right?
Yeah.
Maybe your own parent?
I would think my own parent.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. My own parent. Yeah.
So What would you say is the difference between being your own best friend and your own parent, right? Because both of them should want the best for us, right?
I think we all long for our parents to hold us and to embrace us and to really see us.
Yeah. Yeah. And best friends are more like the ones that it's fun to go on adventures with, more or less, right?
Also, and they can also be a sounding board. But I think a best friend, you have intimate experiences with, and intimate, maybe, discourses, conversations, and whatever. But there's something that we think that only our parents can give us. There's that special wanting to be seen for who we really are, wanting to be heard. I think the thing that each person and each child is truly longing for is that need to really be seen for who we are.
Yeah. Yes, I'd have to agree with you right there. Because it's one of those things that growing up, I never really felt like I could be myself. It was one of those things that I always had to curate my responses, my reactions rather, and make sure that the words that I was going to say wasn't going to offend anyone or make someone mad, because I couldn't even sit there and fend for myself because that was talking back. And forbid that I actually sit there and stick up for myself here and there. But that's the thing, is that whenever you're a little kid, you don't really know how to do that, because to fend for yourself means to possibly lose the connection between parents or caretakers. How would you help someone start to release their traumas in a sense? Because we've talked about a lot of stuff on the mental stuff this time around. So what kind of tips and tricks do you got for people that are looking for actual practical things that they can take away from this conversation?
Things they can do on their own.
Where can they find you? Because you're someone that can help them through this.
Before I tell you where they can find me, if they want to do some work on themselves,
okay,
I would say first thing, to acknowledge the issue and to become aware of it, how it plays out in your life. It's all about curiosity. It's about wanting to learn and exploring what is happening in me when I'm being triggered. And one way to help yourself is journaling. And even sit with that hurt, with that sadness, with that anger, whatever it is that's coming up. I wouldn't start with shame, because that's a little big and usually we don't go that deep at first. It takes time till we unpack that.
Yeah. Because shame is a lot. It's not just shame.
It's shame. Journal.
Okay.
Even ask yourself if that part in me had something to say. Just being curious and say, just listening to that shame, to that hurt, sadness, anger, whatever. And just starting to journal from that place.
Okay.
And you'd be curious what comes out of there, because it's like when we start writing, we also bypass the thinking mind.
Huh. Really?
When we start writing from a place of really connectedness, listening to what's in our body. When I first started that journey, I was told to ask a question with the right hand. I'm right-handed, and to answer with the left hand.
Ooh. Huh.
And that worked very well, except that it was very difficult for me to write with the left hand. And with time, I figured out that I can do the same doing with the right hand, doing both. So all I can say is play with it.
Fair enough. I mean, learning to be ambidextrous would definitely be a plus to working through some trauma.
Yes. Definitely. It's good for your brain too.
Yeah. And so they can find you over at naomimorad.com, right?
Yes. That's the best way to get in touch with me.
Awesome.
And schedule with me. I always do an free intro call with anyone who reaches out and just even wants to get information. Ask questions. I'm happy to speak to anyone. Always.
I love that. Thank you for offering that kind of service for everyone out there, because I mean, with the world the way it is, I feel like the best thing that we can actually do for the world is to just make ourselves whole again.
Yes.
Because there's that saying, hurt people. And yes. I don't want to hurt people anymore, but I know that my healing journey is definitely burning some bridges, and I don't necessarily mean to, but at the same time, I have to sit there and look at how much I sacrificed myself for that bridge, and if it's still worth it to maintain in the future, because I've got a lot of time and energy that can't be spent on maintaining bridges that are 15 years old. So
I'm with you.
Yeah. What would you have to say to someone in that kind of regard whenever they're ready to burn a bridge that serves no more purpose?
When they're ready to burn a bridge that's no more, I think I wouldn't look at it as burning a bridge.
Oh,
I would look at it
as pretty bad.
No, I would look at it as listening to yourself. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we stay in relationships because we've known these people forever. We've been friends with them forever, but actually there's something very destructive and hurtful in the relationship. Mm-hmm. And when we find the strength to say, okay, thank you for all that's been here all these years, but it serves me no more. And I'm not really getting anything except getting hurt here every time again and again. Mm-hmm. I'm here to listen to myself and to what is right for me.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes the most difficult thing to do, because we're so used to pleasing often and making sure that we don't hurt anyone, or that we don't abandon, or that but in the process, we're abandoning ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we're trying to work on ourselves, we can't abandon ourselves anymore.
No.
Damn.
No. And I always say the more you give to yourself, mm-hmm. the more you have to give to others. Mm. So every time you listen to what is right for you, you get a piece of yourself back, mm-hmm. and the more in service you can be to others.
Okay. So we're not necessarily trying to rebuild the whole statue. We're just trying to make ourselves feel again, right?
To make ourselves feel again, to and we spoke about safety before. Mm-hmm. When I listen to my own needs and I put my own needs first, it's not selfish. Mm-hmm. It's healing. And then I feel safe. I know I can trust myself. I can move to the next phase.
Okay. So it's always just a little, one step after another, right?
It's one step after another, for sure. It's a process.
Yeah.
There's no magic. It's a process.
Yeah.
The magic is in the process for me.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, is that with it being a process, there's not necessarily the end of it. Like, I feel like it's almost an infinity loop, because it's like, we'll come to a spot of recognition and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then go back down to like, oh wait, this doesn't make sense anymore. What am I feeling now? And then just kind of goes back and forth. And in my own journey, I've noticed that a lot of the themes seem to be reoccurring, and it's just that my perspective has shifted on it, because whenever I look back at like the beginning of the podcast, I can sit there and listen to my story and I'm like, oh wow, my story's changed a lot, but none of the facts changed. It's just that my perspective has changed.
So true. And so true.
And it's just weird to sit there and like maybe take accountability for some of the things that I was doing, or maybe even not doing, disregarding myself, sacrificing myself, or the other negative things I could have done to other people, you know. And I had a conversation with Matt von Becklin, and he was talking about how like we want to be good people, but whenever we're in addiction, we make not good people choices. And so it's kind of like, how do we reconcile that with ourselves? And it's one of those things where it's like, well, because we weren't in our right mind, we weren't acting out of this space of sovereignty or being whole. We were trying to fill a hole, and in that, it just really screwed us over 10 times worse.
So true. So true. I love that. We're trying to fill a hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, whenever looking back at it, sacrificing self whenever you're a child, you're creating a hole right there, because we're abandoning ourselves, like you said. And we can't do that if we want to grow into who we should be, who our spirit says we are meant to be, right?
Totally. Totally. You call your podcast Retrieving Sanity, right? Mm-hmm. It's like retrieving parts of you. Mm. And the more parts of myself I retrieve, the more sane I become.
Mm. I love that. Whenever we're dealing with retrieving ourselves, how do we... I guess we just let ourselves know that we're still safe after all of what we've been through, right? Like, it may have sucked in the moment going through everything, but we're alive. We've made it through all of our worst days so far. So, isn't that testament in itself?
I think it's huge testament in itself.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think to remind yourself in that moment, like whatever the fear is, when one is really overwhelmed by fear, is like, okay, right now, usually the fear comes in moments when everything is okay. So right now, I have food on the table. I have a roof above my head. I have everything I need. Mm-hmm. Everything's okay right now. Mm-hmm. Just sometimes taking a moment and bringing yourself back to this moment, mm-hmm. because the fear is usually a reflection of our past.
Ooh. Okay. A reflection, but not necessarily something that is telling us it is. It's just letting us know. It's more of a pattern recognition, maybe?
It's a pattern recognition. It's like most likely something that's happening. Something that you cannot control in your life right now, mm-hmm. that is happening. Mm-hmm. Some situation that you're not sure where this is going, mm-hmm. throws you back to a situation in your life in the past where you felt that you had no control, or you felt out of control. Mm-hmm. And that brings the fear. It triggers something from our past and affects our life today.
Ooh, okay. That just made me rethink fear, because there's always the fear of, right? The fear of not enough, the fear of this, that, or another. And it's not necessarily a separate entity. It is the same thing over and over and over. I'm going to have to explore that with myself. But I love the way to think about that, because if it's just a reflection, that tells me that maybe the mirror is just dirty.
Yes, absolutely. It's. We can say the mirror is dirty. I love that analogy. Or we can say like our consciousness, mm-hmm. is dirty in a way, like something, like polluted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's
polluted.
Just some pollution that needs to be cleared up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and pollution isn't necessarily something that we brought upon ourselves. And if it is, then we can still do something about it, right? Yeah. And pollution doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just that it's been tainted by things that weren't supposed to be there in the first place.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Oof. Damn. This episode has been heavy, but in the best possible way, because healing is not an easy journey. Otherwise, everyone would have already been healed, right? We would have.
Yes.
We would have graduated high school with I got my healing diploma. Woo!
I wish that's what we would learn in school, Mm-hmm. It would bring us so much further, and we would be so much better parents.
Yeah.
Once we become parents. Mm-hmm. And we would not carry over everything that we have experienced. But yes.
Yeah. So
I think what matters is to know that it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's a huge piece too, because whenever you feel broken, you feel worthless, it's like it's better if you just didn't exist, and if you think that that's not possible to feel that way, I didn't want to explore anything that said anything to the contrary,
Yeah.
It was trying to reinforce that belief of I'm not enough and I'm not worthy, so on and so forth. So for me, it was really just trying to break that thought pattern. Mm-hmm. And then my body could start to let things up that the thoughts were keeping down. So Real quick, we are at the end of this episode. This conversation just went really fast.
It did.
So do you have any last words for the audience for this episode? And do you think that we could see you on in the future again? Because I mean, I just love these kind of deep dives because everything just gets flipped on its head sometimes. And I'm like, okay, I gotta journal some more because my journal is just sitting right there that I'm going to pick up here in a minute.
First of all, I would love to come back.
Awesome.
Always. And last words. It's not about, we set like goals of where we want to be and we should be, and we beat ourselves up if we didn't make it, and make it about the journey. Because there's so much gold along the journey. And if you start paying attention to those little bits and pieces, like those pennies dropping, those things that suddenly shift, the awareness in your body that begins to change, that you suddenly can cry, that you suddenly feel, okay, my shoulders are straight up, or I don't have my knee pain anymore. Or when things get better, we usually forget that there was a problem. It's like we ask someone, how's your headache? Huh? What headache? Oh yeah, no, my headache is gone,
Yeah.
We forget that there ever was a problem because it feels normal to be balanced.
Mm-hmm.
That's our homeostasis. That's the way we were meant to feel. So when we're not in pain or not out of alignment, then we feel normal and we forget. That's a good thing. But it's like recognizing the steps that you've made that allowed you to feel better.
Okay, so I love that. It's acknowledging your own progress and everything, and not forgetting where you came from either.
Yes. Instead of beating yourself up all the time, but I have to be over there. I already want to have achieved that. And only when I get there, I'll be okay. No, you're okay right now.
Yeah.
You're exactly where you should be.
Yeah. Oh, I think that that's a good way to wrap up this episode, to let everyone know that they're okay, that you are where you're supposed to be, even if the road was shitty on the way up there. Where we're at is kind of where we need to be, and as much as that can suck to accept, we can work with that at least. Naomi, I thank you very much for being on Retrieving Sanity again. It has been an absolute honor and a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation. I've learned so much, and for everyone else out there, I just got to say thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM, and as always, try to love yourself, love others if you can, but you got to love yourself first. And if you're having any issues with mental health crisis, you can dial 988 or text 741-741. And if you're in the LGBTQ plus community, you can call the Trevor Project up in Canada, and they'll be able to help you out. We'll see y'all next week. And until then, much love. Schlan.